Great start. All right there. Not really. Right, calm. No, don't be calm. Be as energetic and as excited as you like. I've had some friends round. Oh, really nice. But I always feel a little bit autistic after I've spent drawn out. It wasn't drawn out, but give the game away. Long periods of time with people, especially two. It was only two. This isn't some mad humble brag. Oh, I've had some friends round. Oh, there will be cleaning bills. There's nothing like that at all. Just a couple of friends on a Wednesday. It's Tuesday. I don't know what day it is. Oh, man, they've done me right up. It's Wednesday. It's just Wednesday, isn't it? Well, you don't know, because that's the magic of recording. All right, I'm going to calm down, because I know what I'm going to tell you. And it's been some dark times lately. I've made some dark videos. I've been complaining about this and that. They're still fucking around with my subs. But you know what? I realise they're not fucking around with my subs. And it was a sign of all the content makers are making these videos about this squeeze. I did it myself. And without doubt, it's occurring in certain places. But it's very hard to get a picture of exactly what's happening or what's going to happen. And for me to think that YouTube is somehow targeting my 7,000 strong channel to stop me getting... That's not happening. It's just some weird bug. So I think it's a bit. I want to step back a bit from all of that censorship. You know, there's other battles being won. It's easy to focus on a series of negatives, but you know, and it's enjoyable doing it. I'll tell you what, I've loved watching, like, is it the Ripple Effect, the films about 9/11. Now I'm sure I'm going to set the comments ablaze, but I can sit and watch them and just put criticism and skepticism out of my mind and just buy every single bit of it from these people who aren't experts and usually don't have access to the information. And yeah, I think I've been doing that a bit much lately. I've been letting myself immerse in something because there's dramas going on, and I'm just going to tell you some stories. If they get rid of my channel, see ya. that's what's going to happen. Now, what? Ah, fuck it. Ice cream. I had to cut it back then. Wow, did I ramble. I'm usually just one go, but whew, no one wanted to hear that. I can assure you, no one wanted to hear where that went. Crikey. Right. Right, that's that. What I was going to tell you about. There was this weird time in my life when I'd been living up in Leeds, and you might have known from some previous videos, Leeds was the darkest time of my life so far. It really, I mean, it kind of beats a lot of the stuff that happened afterwards, which you'd think was worse because what happened with narcotics and legal issues and other weird things. But just being lonely in Leeds. That's on my classified ad. I'll come round and see me tonight, lonely in Leeds. To get out of there was amazing. I remember my mate drove me home, and I got back and I just moved into her mother's house, and I just thought, oh, you know, around people I knew, around people I grew up with, around a culture that I grew up with, some familiarity. You know, I had some kind of currency there. I knew my place there. It wasn't great, but I was aware of who I was, etc., where I was from. And I felt so... Leeds was so transient. I hated it when I got there, so I was immediately thinking about when it's going to be time to leave. And, you know, I just was... so many hideous things happened there. So lovely to get back. Now, I self-published a novel in my 20s. It was awful. I wrote it in like 2 weeks on the old sulfate. We didn't even have computers then. It was an electronic typewriter. But this is hammering ink on a bit of paper, so it's so bizarre that I have to explain that just in case you weren't born. And so if you fucked it up, you had to paint the paper white, and type the letter over it, and it looked like the broken foundation on an old lady's chin all over your manuscript. So to get back was lovely, and I'd written this novel and I'd self-published it, and it was doing quite well. I got some really good reviews, and you know, God knows how. And it was in Waterstones on Charing Cross Road, and on Waterstones down at the bottom by, well, at the bottom of Charing Cross Road as well. I always smashed Charing Cross Road, and it was nice. You know, I was only 24. I had the first bit of writing I ever sent off was published. There used to be a magazine, it's still there, it's for people who grow weed and are interested in the cannabis culture, which I wasn't really. There was just, we used to grow it. I think I told that story. And we had the magazine laying about, and I wrote to them, and I wrote them this piece saying, because of the law, the legal situation surrounding a lot of drugs, when you take them, that's part of the experience. You cannot separate it from the fact that you're breaking the law. And now that's really affected our experience of our joy of narcotics. Anyway, I wrote it to them, and next day I was a bit embarrassed, thinking, I can't believe I sent that nonsense off. A couple of weeks later I got a check, I think, for $50, so they purchased the copyright off me, the rights to republish it. I was like, yeah, I was in a party that night. What do you do? Writer. Published writer, author, actually author. So yeah, so the novel was doing quite well, weirdly. And then this director picked it up. He was like a prodigy director, making sort of pop videos. In those days, there was still a lot of pop videos on telly, and you'd get like 80,000-90,000 pound budget for an unknown band. Like Warner Brothers would sign this band called Straw. I'll put a link to the Straw video in the description. And I'm in it. I'm in the video, and I helped make it. I was a creative consultant. Oh yeah, trying to make it look like an old Fluxus video, like the Lost Fluxus tapes or something. Nice. All shot in black and white on this old, like shot in on Bolex 16mm and edited by hand. Is it a Steinway or a Steinbeck? One of those is the piano. But hand editing, where you write on it and all that, and you splice it and you tape it. A, to make it look authentic. B, so that money wasn't spent on filming and editing, and we could drink that in town, which is what we did. This was coming. We were going out every night in Soho, me and this director. He lived in a squat in Bethnal Green, and you wouldn't have known it was a squat. It was a beautiful old Edwardian end of terrace house. And I moved in there, and I'd gone from Leeds with no money, no life, you know, like just decaying. And now I was working with this film director who'd impressed everyone in Soho with his work on adverts and pop videos. And he'd been looking for a writer for years. And I was living in Bethnal Green. It was a 30-minute walk into Soho, selling drugs in Soho. And then I discovered the members clubs of this town. Now, nowadays, you'll hardly get me in one. I mean, I'll go down. There's one I go to. It's a quiet, nice old little place. You know, it's kind of out of the way, but in those days it was crazy fun to be signing on the dole, living in a squat. He had money coming out of his ears from all these pop videos he was making. He had a budget to write the film, so that was the money we were spending as well. And we were going to the Met Bar up on Park Lane, and you know, I'd grown up in Dartford, I'd ended up in Leeds, and I'd be in the Met Bar dancing with like Robbie Williams. Just snorting coke in the toilet, just looking at his massive face, just hello. and the Groucho Club in London, and just bunking in there, because you can't get in there unless you're with a member. And if you can get in there and you're, you know, I had a pair of jogging bottoms on that, like the elastic had gone around the waist, and I was holding them up with like a bit of string, but the thread had come undone as well on the hem. So you could sort of see my belly button and like a little sort of smile of flesh where the hem was hanging down dangerously close to my mons pubis mound. And yeah, we'd get in there. I remember once we sneaked a sports bag in there of 4 litres of ready-made Bloody Mary. Because in those days, I don't think you could buy a drink for cash. You'd have to, your member would have their credit card behind the bar. So you could usually ponce one drink off someone, just go, all right there. All right there, my member's not here yet. I was wondering, could you just grab us a couple of sea breezes? Everyone was drinking sea breezes in those days. That was the one. Grapefruit juice, vodka, Cranberry? Oh, I might have nailed it. And the better they done them, the cranberry would be like rising stalagmites of redness. Cool though, man. Like £20 a pop, thank you. And then once you'd emptied your glass, you could just top up from the 4 litres of Bloody Mary. Yeah. And of course the bar staff would just be watching us, and our drinks would just keep refilling on the sly, and we would get slowly more and more pissed. Occasionally they'd get onto you and just come over and go, I think it's time you left, don't you? And you'd go, yeah, in front of everyone. Too funny, man. And there was Soho House was on the corner, and like they've taken over this town now. You can't go down a road in this town without one of the Soho House many different clubs. And you know, it's ironic, really. Groucho Marx's famous quote is he wouldn't want to belong to a club that would have him as a member, and that's what the Groucho Club is named after, that idea. And the thing is, it's kind of true. I mean, I'm a member of the little one I go to, but when a friend invites me to Soho House or the Groucho Club, I'll go in there, and it's just rubbish. They got nothing to offer me. Look how my posture's changed. Look, I'm actually imagining I'm in there. Put me back 20 years when it's all, oh, we're in the back of a cab, I've had too much speed. We're going back to the Met Bar, and then we go round someone's house who turns out works for this person. Then the bloke who edits Loaded comes in. What was his name? James Brown, I think. I think he ended up in rehab. He was certainly putting the groundwork in that night. And I remember arguing with him, going, to be honest with you, I'd rather just read porn, James. If I'm going to do Loaded, it's just a tease. And this kind of shit happened every night. I mean, the funny thing is your B-listers, you know, your soap opera actors and actresses. And all of a sudden you're in the toilets of the Groucho Club with a bass player from Blur and the geezer from Coronation Street. Snorting lions off the system and giving them a couple of dabs of your sulphate from a Dartford bathtub. They were good days, man, and that went on for a year. I mean, that at Soho House, it got to the point there. I know my pronunciation is probably not helping. It's called Soho House, not Soho House. You can choose to eat some ice cream now too, and it won't be so annoying that I'm pausing. It's fucking good though. It's the Haagen-Dazs with fudge pieces. Oh man. I won't edit that out. I'll leave it in there for you to see. So yeah, it got to the point with that place where they just let me in. You know, they realised that I knew loads of people in there. I was always getting money thrown behind the bar. There goes my light. But they'd always just let me in the end, which was quite nice because I could sort of arrange to meet girls there. I met Gail there. You know, Gail from the Crack Diaries, who I interviewed. Well, when I caught up with her after all those years, when we first become boyfriend and girlfriend, that's where I arranged to meet her. And she thought I was super cool. 23 years old, down Soho House with my weird membership. Yeah, just buzz the buzzer and say you're with Chris Dangerfield. What a cunt. I can't believe I blagged that. However, it did come to... That place came to a right old sticky ending. Up the top, there was a bar called the Circle Bar, and it was round. And I decided I need a piss, and it was about, a good 5 metres away. So I just pulled my trousers down, stood up on the chair, put my penis out the window, 5 stories up, down onto Old Compton Street. And I just pissed out the window. I could see it arcing. When I finished, I thought, I got away with it. Give it a couple of shakes, turn around, and the host, the woman that used to walk around, make sure everyone's all right, she went, I think you've had your time here, don't you? I was like, yeah. And then I had to get my mate, and he wouldn't come, and he just kept running to hide from us. And in the end, I caught up with him, and we were marched out by security. This is about like 9 months of going there every week, but you know, the behaviour was going down and down and down, and taking it for granted and using it like your toilet, you know, wasn't helping. And as we got to the bit at the top, I've gone, see you all later, just see you, bye. And my mate looked at him, and the woman behind reception, she went, who are they? And my mate went, don't you know? He went, you want to watch a bit more telly, and then fell down the stairs. Dun, 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 dun. I was just behind him. See you later. Quite weird. I go back in there these days to meet someone, and it's like middle of the day. I'm one of that crowd sitting in there. Hasn't the attraction that it used to have. But this is what I'm telling this. Check out, this is quite a good one. I was up there one night and absolutely smashed, as you can imagine. If that director weren't with me, I'd have no money. But I just blag it off of people. Just they'd seem quite happy to buy me drinks for speed. So one night I'm up there and there's this leather jacket on the floor and it's really nice. And I think I'll probably steal that. I don't know why. I'm not a thief like that, really. I'm certainly not anymore. Sorry, painting myself rather well. When I was telling that story the other week about when I was in the bushes wanking, as I was saying, I was thinking, nah, you don't want to be saying this. I went to reach over this coat and this bloke went, you can have that if you want. I felt like such a cunt. I just went, no. It's nice though, isn't it? And he sat down next to me. Ian, his name was, and he turned out to be gay Ian. And his best mate at the time was Christopher Evans, Ginger Chris Evans. He's an English celebrity, Americaners, or people from the globe. And he just bought Virgin Radio and had a TV show called Don't Forget Your Toothbrush. And he was like one of the most famous people in England. And I was just with him and Ian at Soho House. And I kept meeting up with them every week. I took a couple of my mates to one of their parties, one of their birthday parties. And we'd done a lot of pills. And it was New Year's Eve, 1999. And that Ian rung me up. He said, do you want to come to TFI Fridays? Remember, Thank Fuck It's Friday was a TV show that was on Fridays. He said, do you want to come to TFI Friday? Now, I remembered from watching it at home that there was a big crowd of people downstairs that would watch the live bands. And it was all shot upstairs in this little office bit with like a live crew of all the guests and all that. He said, we'll be in the upstairs bit. And I just went, oh, yeah. So we've gone along there and I'm there and it's New Year's Eve. And I'm in that top bit and the camera pans round and I raise a Guinness to the glass and I watched that on telly. I found that. I'll see if I can dig it out. I'll never find that. And I watched a few people being interviewed. Des Lynam was interviewed. One of Take That was interviewed. But the amazing thing was, glamour porn star and woman whose naked body I had seen and pleasured myself in the presence of thousands of times before that night, Joanne Guest. Oh, that's right. Early 90s glamour. I was obsessed with Joanne Guest and I was going to dedicate my novel to her. I didn't in the end, but I think I told her that I had on the night. Now, amazingly, I got to snog her. Can you imagine? I was getting off with Jo Guest. What the fuck? Literally. She did pull back a little bit sooner than I certainly would have done. But I had a little snog of her at TFI Friday. I asked her what she was up to later. She said she was going out partying. I thought, you can't complain, Christopher. You've got off with your childhood wank target. And that was all filmed at around 6 or 7. You know, they'd done the countdown to midnight at like 7:20 because it goes out later that night, obviously. And then I was taken out of there. Me, Chris Evans, Jo Guest, oh yeah, Melinda Messenger, Gay Ian, and a couple of others. 3 Jaguar convoy to Hampstead, and that's the party she was going to, Chris Evans' house. And I was round his house on New Year's Eve, just that little crowd, and we were drinking and all. And I kept going upstairs into the toilet and just racking up gack and just trying to sort of keep the like a polo there. And I've gone downstairs and we're all chatting and all that, and we ended up going to the Met Bar, the Metropolitan Bar on Park Lane. Again, I think I mentioned it earlier. It was it was where you went after the Groucho, really, and it was just full of celebrities. It's Sadie Frost, who I ended up getting to know quite well, and all that lot of that time. You know, what's his name? The always plays Hardman. I can't even think of his fucking name. He was always out in those days. Jude Law, obviously. Anyway, I tried to rekindle my relationship with Joanne Guest at the Met Bar later that night. I sat next to her. We exchanged a few sentences. She wasn't so nice and forthcoming. It didn't seem like the girl that I got off with at TFI Friday. And that's when she went, I don't like drugs and I don't like people who do drugs. Can you go? Oh, broke my heart. Smack. Just literally said that. I don't like drugs. I don't like people who do drugs. Can you go? Now, she hadn't said that before I'd been doing all the cocaine, because I was probably a nice person, whereas cocaine turns you into an utter cunt. And I'll tell you what, it done me, and I just kept going back down the toilets and doing another big old line, trying to get some kind of euphoria and happiness back. But now I was just chasing it, and I was putting back those sea breezes free on New Year's Eve, of course. Oh, I didn't tell you how we got in. I've gone up to the door all pissed in my dirty clothes, and they went, "No, mate, there's no, you're not allowed in it." Like, didn't even say no tickets. Just went, "You're not allowed." And then when the Glamour models and Chris Evans turned around behind me, "Oh, did the doors open, sesame?" And I walked through. "Thanks, guys, I'm with him." But now I'm just chasing lines. I'm trying to get back, and I feel desperate. And I haven't eaten in like about 20 hours, and I'm getting a hangover from the gins that I started drinking like 10 hours before. And I cannot get enough of this cocaine up my nose at the same time to just. And I know that I've, fuck me, man, I could have ended up back at home with her. If I'd have carried on like I did at TFI, I would almost certainly be married. I would probably be married to Joanne Guest now if it wasn't for cocaine. And when they talk about the negative consequences of drug use, that is my worst one. Not ending up married to Joanne Guest. Later that night, of course, later that morning, New Year's Day, I'm out in Park Lane, and I just walk out into the street, and it's like a nuclear dawn on my fucking retina. I'm just awful. The pupils will not close. There's too much light. There's too much cold. It's freezing. I've only got like a little t-shirt on, and it's all sweaty. And I'm just walking around Belgravia, one of the richest places in the world. Some of the most expensive real estate in the world. These gorgeous white houses with those Doric columns out the front and those huge long windows that just feel incredible. I haven't even got enough money to get home. I'm living by that time. Then I haven't moved into the squat. I've got to get back to Dartford at that time. That was early on in all that. Jesus, man. And I remember I had to walk down the A2 and I was begging money off of people. In the end, I hitchhiked. Someone drove me. Nice. Yeah, no, all right. Yeah, no, I was out last night. Yeah. There you go. I just thought I'd lighten things up a bit after the time we've had. Don't forget, I've got a separate channel of my songs. Link in the description. There's nothing on there, but I'm going to upload a couple tonight. And Chinese prescription news coming very soon. That's only 2 weeks away. See you later.